All right, everybody. This video is going to show you how to set up your paper for your room drawing practice and your room drawing. Everybody's going to set up their paper the same way so that all of the video tutorials work out the same and you're able to use them as you want to in your actual final drawing. So in order to get started with this, you need to make sure you have a 2H pencil, your eraser ready, a ruler, and your 9x12 drawing paper. And it's in the section over in the paper that says 9x12 drawing paper. Now for your drawings, I really want you using the 2H, and you need to push very, 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 very lightly. For my video, I need to use my regular pencil so that you're able to see it. You just can't see it very well. Before we get ready to draw with perspective, our first order of business is always to make sure that our pencil is very, very pointy. When you're using a dull pencil when you're drawing with perspective, the lines don't go exactly where you want them to go, and that's very important when you're drawing with perspective, that your lines go exactly where you want them. So a nice pointy pencil is the best place to start. So we are going to be using our rulers for this entire unit. Let's remember that for this practice and for most of this unit, we are using the inch side of the ruler. So that's the bigger side right over here, right? If you forget, most of the time it's labeled inch. Make sure you're not using the tiny side. Now, when we are measuring, we're measuring from the line that's right above the zero, not from the end of the ruler. Your measurements start here. So remember, on your rulers, we're going to be using, for your whole inches, it's the long line that's right above the number. Okay, so that's a whole inch. Your half an inch, which we will also use, is the next longest line that's right in between the two numbers. So this line right here would make 1/2 an inch. This is 1 inch. This next line here is 1.5 inches. And then this is 2 inches, and it goes on so on and so forth as it goes down the ruler. Okay, so just keep that in mind and make sure you're using your inch side. So the first thing that we're going to be measuring is our horizon line. Everybody needs the same horizon line, and they need to be at the same spot. So if you would please take your ruler and line it up with the right side of your paper, just like you can see I'm doing here, making sure that the 0 is at the very top, right? Not the end of the ruler. And then you are going to make a small dash or a tick mark at 3.5. Okay, so your first mark is at 3.5 inches for your horizon line. After you make that mark, you will then lift up your ruler. Do not turn your paper because then it's hard to tell which side is up, so we leave our paper still. And you move the ruler over to the left side and make another mark at 3.5. Please make sure again that your ruler is lined up with the 0 up at the top. So my lovely students, when we're doing this, remember you need to make sure that you're making very, very light marks and very, very light lines. Mine is going to look super duper dark, and it's because it has to. The next thing you're going to do is line up the ruler with your 2 tick marks, just like this, making sure that you can see both of them. So I'm positioned so that my head is over them and I can see both of them. You will spread your hand out on the ruler so it doesn't move, your non-dominant hand, and then you draw a very light line. So if I'm drawing it, if I am you drawing it, I'm not pushing hard with my pencil, but for mine, I need you to see it, so I'm going to push really hard. Just like this. Now I'm going to leave my ruler here, but just push it down a little bit so that you can see the line, right? And that's what your line should look like. Now, the next thing that we're going to be doing is making some dots and dashes to mark out where our back wall is going to be. So if you look right here, you can see that it has this little back wall that we're drawing back there. And they have to be in specific areas, and so we're going to be making dots and dashes. So when I say to make a tick mark, I mean for you to make a line like this, okay? So that's a tick mark. So either we're making a vertical tick mark or a horizontal tick mark. For this next one, we're going to be making vertical tick marks. And then sometimes I'm going to ask you to make a dot. And a dot will look like this, but be much, much smaller. Okay, so we have tick marks and dot. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to have the ruler lined up so that the 0 is over on the right and it's all along the horizon line. And then I'm going to make a mark, a tick mark at the 4 inches, just like that. I'm going to make a tiny dot on the 6 inches right in the middle of the paper, and then I'm going to make a vertical tick mark on the 8 inches, just like that. So let me move that so you can see it. So you will have a mark at the 4, at the 6, and at the 8. Okay. After you do that, you're going to lift your ruler, but do not turn your paper, and move your ruler up to the top of the paper. Then you will make a tick mark at the 4 inches and at the 8 inches. I've made sure that my 0 is aligned with the side so that my measurements are accurate. So I've got a little tick mark with the 4 and a little tick mark with the 8. These top lines and the bottom lines are important so that our back wall will be parallel with the sides of the paper, and the left and the right side of the back wall will be parallel with each other, so they're really, really important. What we're going to do next is to draw a line that starts at a certain measurement and then stops at another measurement. Okay, so it's going to start at 1.5 and stop at 4.5 inches. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to take my ruler, not moving my paper, and line the 0 up at the top with the top of the paper and this left tick mark. Then I'm going to check and make sure that my ruler is lined up with the bottom tick mark. And I'm not going to move it, but I'm just going to spread my fingers out. Now, when I start to draw, I'm going to start to draw at 1.5. Remember, that's that middle line in between the 1 and the 2. I will draw from 1.5 all the way down to 4.5, which is the line in between the 4 and the 5. So I'll go 1.5 to 4.5, stop. Okay, just like that, so it'll be floating out. Let me show you that again. We're going to do the same thing over here on the other side. Line up the 0 with the top. Make sure you can see both the top tick mark and the bottom tick mark. You will start to draw at 1.5. You will stop drawing at 4.5, just like that. That gives us our the left wall and the right wall. Okay. Now we can go ahead and erase the top tick marks. They were just register marks so that we were able to make things parallel. Now, these lines should be in the same space on the paper, they should be the same length, and they should start and stop at the same part. So what we're going to do for the next part, we're going to draw the top of the wall and the bottom of the wall, but you just need to make sure when you lay your ruler down that it's parallel to your horizon line and it's parallel to the top of the paper. So I'm checking right now, and what I'm going to do is line it up with my 2 little ends of the wall, and then I'm looking at this distance and just visually estimating this is the same distance as it is over here on the other side, and that tells me that my ruler is parallel to the top of the paper, it's parallel to the horizon, and my wall will be nice and straight. Then we're going to draw a line between the 2 side wall lines, and then we're going to do the same thing down at the bottom. Not moving your paper, but just picking up the ruler and moving the ruler. We're going to carefully align it, making sure that the ruler is parallel with the horizon line, and it's parallel with the top of the paper, parallel with the bottom of the paper. And just connect it. Okay, so we should have this lovely back wall all ready to go. Now, our last steps before we are done just making our room set up is to draw the wall lines. And the wall lines come out from the corners of the back wall, right? All of the walls in the room are attached to each other, so they've got to come out of the corners because that's how rooms are built. So when we're lining up our rulers, we need to line up our rulers with the vanishing point, and they have to go through the corner of the back wall. and then they will extend off the paper. So when you're lining up your ruler, you have to make sure that you can see the vanishing point and that corner, and you draw from the corner off the paper. So it's just like that, right? So you start drawing there and there. So you're going to be going from the corner of the back wall, not the corner of the paper. This paper could be any size and shape. It could be a big circle paper, and you would still do it the same way. Okay, so I'm going to do this one again. I'm going to line up the ruler with my vanishing point, and then I slide it over and line it up with the top corner, just like this, and then draw it out. Okay, so really not the corner of the paper, but the corner of the back wall. Okay, and then let's zoom in a little bit on the bottom so that you can see how it works down below. So down below, I'm going to line it up with the vanishing point. And remember, you're drawing very lightly. And from the vanishing point, we'll line it up with the back corner and carefully draw it off like that. All right, and then one last one, and then your 4 walls are complete. Lined up through here, just like this. So I will have included a picture for you for reference in Google Classroom so that you can check it out. I'm sure there's one up in the board. But when you're done with this, before you start to do any of the videos, please raise your hand so that I can check this to make sure that you've drawn it correctly. It will save you a lot of heartache later on. Thanks for your attention.